So guys, if you're into gardening like I am, this is a pretty common occurrence. Hoses over time become dry rotted and they tend to spring leaks, especially if you have high water pressure. But I'm going to show you some simple ways to fix it with something even as unusual as a broom handle and a child's toy. So let's go into the greenhouse and I'll show you exactly how to fix this problem in more than one way. So guys, even the best made hoses will spring leaks from time to time, especially if you're like my house. I have a well and occasionally our water pressure is quite high, sometimes 80, 90 psi. So eventually my hoses, even the best and most expensive one, tend to spring leaks, especially once they become 3 or 4 years old. But I'm going to show you how to fix it. It's super simple, so I'm going to bring you in closer and show you the way to do it. But you can fix this hose with something like a child's hula hoop, a broom handle, or just common PVC, and even something like this, which is made for electricians, this electrical pipe. Now you want to identify exactly where the leak is once you cut the water off. Sometimes it can be tricky to spot it, so you may want to mark it with a light colored marker, a pen, or something that's going to leave a mark where you'll know exactly where it's at. But then the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to cut that section out so you can replace it. I like using a pair of PVC cutters. These will leave a very clean cut. And you can use something like scissors or a razor blade, but I think this is one of the cleanest cuts you can get using this. So let's cut this through. And the edges of that are really smooth and really clean. So we're going to cut our section out. Our leak is right here. Now we've removed our bad piece. Now, there's a couple of tricks to doing this. You want to measure the inside of your pipe, and most of the time it's going to be about a ½ inch. Some pipes, some hose pipes, I'm saying pipe, but I'm talking about a hose, might be 3/4 inch diameter. So just measure it. You can take a ruler or something like that, or you can just do a judgment call what you think if it looks like ½ inch. And I'm believing this is about ½ inch. But that's your first task, is to remove the bad section of your hose pipe. Now guys, as I said just a minute ago, you're only limited to your imagination as to what you can use to repair this. Now this is a broom handle. You can see the end of it right here. If you have an old broom that you're not using, or if you just want to cut a section out of the top, you can remove your top plastic piece and then reattach it a few inches down. So you could use this as long as it fits in there. But there's a trick to making this work, even if it's too large, and I'll show you that in just a second. But you can use, like I said, a broom handle. Now here's something else that I came across in the greenhouse I'd made a project with earlier. This is a child's hula hoop. You can do this as well. Put it in there. Now you're going to need to do that trick I was talking about earlier to make this fit perfectly, but I'm going to use a very specific item. You can use something like PVC. If you have PVC around, I have tons of PVC. I put my own irrigation system in, so I always have some leftover PVC and fittings. Also, as I said, this is a piece of electrician's conduit, and they use this to run electrical wire in commercial buildings, and I don't think they use this in residential. I think it's mainly just done in commercial settings. But this is actually the perfect size. If you watch this closely, and I'll try to get it in there, it's actually the perfect fit. I believe the conduit is, I guess it's half inch, I believe. So it actually fits in there perfectly. But I'll show you a trick. If you don't have something that fits in there perfectly, I'll get another item, and you can use this item to make it work, but you're going to have to do a little bit of rigging there to make it fit. Now let's say whatever you have is just a little bit large for the hole, like this piece of PVC, even though it's ½ inch, is slightly larger than what we need to put it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this heat gun and I'm going to slightly soften this up so we can get it in there. You can take something that's cone shape and expand it out a little bit as well when you've got it heated, and you kind of turn it around so it'll be easier to get it in there. But you're going to need to get it to go in about 1 to 1.5 inches into the pipe, the hose pipe. So we're going to heat this up real quick and put it in there, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Now you're not limited to a heat gun. You can use something like a kitchen torch, a hair dryer. You just want to get this as hot as possible without melting it. If you get it too hot with a cigarette lighter or a torch, or even some type of, I know you can buy the, I forget the name of it, but there's a type of torch you can use around your shop. I've got one. I should know the name of it. But you want to soften it up where it goes in there a little bit easier, because if you try to overheat it, it's going to be very hot. You won't be able to get your hand around it. And it's still warm to the touch, but it's just hot enough for me to slip it in there. So I'm going to heat it up just a little bit more. We're about a halfway inch into it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to show you a trick how to keep it on there permanently. Now, what I was going to mention is I also recommend is if it's not a good fit like this is a very tight fit because of the particular hose I have, but let's say your hose is a little bit loose in there, you can use some aquarium sealant, put it in there around the edges of your PVC or whatever you're using, the metal, the child's toy, the broom handle, whatever you're using. You can put that silicone, this right here, the aquarium sealant, and I'll put a link to this down below, but you want to put that on there right at the end of it before you force it on, because you want it to have a really great seal, and you probably won't be able to use the hose for about 24 to 48 hours until whatever the recommended dry time of the particular sealant you're using. So let's get the other side on there, and I'm going to show you a way to keep it on there permanently, something that you wouldn't ordinarily think of. Now I want to explain a couple of things that happened in that time lapse, and this is quite hot even with the heat gun, so I would recommend wearing a pair of leather gloves. I've got some somewhere in the greenhouse, but I'm just too lazy to look for them. But in order to stretch it out and give it that cone shape so it will slip over the piece of PVC, I've used a small funnel. It's a kitchen funnel, and you just push it up on there and it kind of spreads it out there while this is still kind of pliable and soft. Another thing that you might need to do is you might need to take a screwdriver. If you don't have the funnel, you can kind of pry it up a little bit and pull it open, maybe go into 3 or 4 different sides and get it into that flared out appearance, and then you can slip it in both sides. So I've got a little bit more work to do to get this perfectly on there, but I'm going to show you 2 ways to keep it on there forever. Now, once you've got both ends onto the piece of PVC, if it's a tight fit like this, you can get it to go further and further while it's still slightly warm. If you got the gloves on, you'll be okay. Mine has cooled down enough to where I can touch it by hand, but just doing a twisting motion, almost like you're putting on a very tight bottle cap. And you're just doing that over and over, and it will slowly move on there. We've nearly got this one perfect, and this one's getting really close. So just do that. If you're having a problem getting it on there, put on a pair of nice thick gloves, because it is a little rough on the hands, until you get it about 1 to 1.5 inches on your piece of PVC. Now, hose clamps would be the most common and ordinary way you would attach this hose to keep it locked in place forever, and you just tighten it down with a screwdriver, and so you would have a very tight fit. It wouldn't slip off easier. But let's say you don't have any hose clamps and you need to use something else. I've got just the thing that most people have around their house, and some are made better than others, you have to remember, but using zip ties can really work well. 1 zip tie may not be enough, so you may want to put 2 zip ties on each side, and that way it will work. So we're going to put a zip tie on one side, and I'm going to show you a way to make sure the zip tie has its maximum hold. You're going to take pliers and you're going to hold it down. You're going to pull it as tight as you can, and that way you've got it really tight. If you're not sure if you've got it tight, if you try to turn the zip tie and it moves at all, it means you don't have it tight enough. So you need to get a pair of pliers, pull it. You may want to take a screwdriver and hold it down like this, so you're forcing it through there. So you want that zip tie to be as tight as possible. Now, real quickly, I just wanted to show you a couple of kits they have on Amazon. This is a hose kit here. It's got all the washers in it. It's even got washers that have built-in filters. It's got end caps, and it's very inexpensive. I'll put a link in the description to it. Also, I actually have hose repair kits around. This would be the part that hooks up to your outlet, and then of course this is the end of the hose. So I've got a lot of these kits, but I just wanted to show an alternate way of doing it if you don't have these kits or don't want to buy them. Either way, I'll put links in the description, but if you're just wanting to kind of rig it up to make it last for one more season without putting another dollar into your hose, this is the way to do it. So let's finish up this, and I'll show you a couple more tricks. Now, this little rig here will solve the problem if you have a leak somewhere along your hose. But what if the problem is that where it connects to your faucet? Well, there's a way to do that too, because a lot of times that back and forth movement when you're dragging your hose around, or for whatever reason, that often fails and it swells up right there at the end, and you have to cut it off to where you have to start all over. Now, if you have a hose repair kit like this, you can just put this in there, do the same trick with either zip tie or a clamp, and you can just start fresh with one of these. But if you don't happen to have one of these handy, I'll show you another item that you can use to make it work. Now let's say your failure took place right here and you just don't have enough room to splice two pieces together. There's another thing you can do here. Let's imagine we're going to cut this off, and we're going to start here with a clean end of our hose. We've got our other end of the hose ready to go, so we just need to take care of this right here. We're going to do the same method as we're going to put a piece of 1/2 inch in there. Then we're going to take a male adapter. It's going to fit over our 1/2 inch. Of course, we're going to glue that on there. Now, your pipe now is not going to work unless you have one of these. And there's a lot more PVC around at most hardware stores. You don't often find these hose repair kits. The last time I went to my local hardware store, I couldn't even find it. So this is kind of a supplementary thing that you can do. So we've got, and you can find just aisles and aisles of PVC fittings. So you've got your male adapter. You've got a 1/2 inch to 3/4 adapter. I'm going to put that on the end there. And of course, it's a good idea to use plumber's tape as well to help cut down on the leaks. Now we've got our last piece in place. One of these, every time I go look at PVC, I just check to see if they have one. This is a hose adapter. On both sides there is our fitting in there. And also, if I can get that out, it's a little bit tight, but you can get that in these. If it doesn't have one in there, you can buy this kit right here. So we've got our 3/4 now. We went from 1/2 inch to 3/4 because my particular pipe, a 3/4 piece of pipe would be very difficult to get in there. I just showed you putting the 1/2 inch pipe in is a lot easier. So we're going to take this fitting right here. We're just going to imagine we've glued everything down. Let's see if we can get it on this side. A little bit tricky there. Okay, we've got it threaded in there nicely. We're going to tighten it down as tight as we can. And so now this piece will hook up to your outdoor faucet. We're going to imagine this is currently hooked up to our pipe. And so we're ready to go on both ends. We've solved our problem with our leak, and we solved our problem with the end of our hose where it hooks up to the faucet, where we may have, sometimes it expands to a bubble, or sometimes it just outright ruptures right there where it hooks up to the faucet. So this is a way around that. If you've got a hardware store close to you, I can almost guarantee you they have these. They may not have the hose repair kit. So guys, whether you're repairing the end of the hose or somewhere along the length of your hose there's a leak, there's two simple methods to get it working again and save you money. These hoses are becoming more expensive by the day. I think this hose, when it was new, was well over $40. So just putting a few dollars into it and expanding the life really makes a difference on it. So guys, I just want to say thanks so much for watching. I have a whole library of videos about home and gardening. So if you want to take a look, just browse through there. There's a lot of different topics, and a lot of it has to do with vegetable gardening, so you might be interested in that as well. But if you have a specific question or comment you want me to read, I filter the many comments I get. I filter them through public subscribers. So I'd ask you to please subscribe first, and then that way I'll be much more likely to have time to respond to each question. It's just I get so many questions and comments, I can't view them all. I sometimes have an hour or two in the morning when I'm lucky to be able to go through all of them. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.